Hi grade 8s. So today we'll be continuing with the solving two-step equations. Last lesson we didn't finish off. I didn't send you guys homework. So today we'll be finishing off this lesson and we'll also be doing the homework. Now last time I kind of briefly talked about how we can solve these two-step equations. So for example, I have two equations over here. We have first 3x plus 4 is equal to 13. In order for us to solve x, we have to isolate x. Now don't forget, we want to isolate. We want to isolate step one. What we want to do is we want to isolate the variable to one side of the equation. One side of the equation. Okay, so that's what we want to do. So let's start off. 3x plus 4 equals to 13. We have the constant here, which is getting in the way, so we want to get rid of it. And so in order to do that, we want to send it to the other side. So our next step will be 3x is equal to 13 minus 4. And so that is equal to 9. So you can actually combine. I'm not going to combine the step. I'll just write all the steps over here. So we have 3x is equal to 9. And so x, we want to get rid of the 3, which is multiplied to x. So we want to divide both sides by 3. So that's going to be 9 over 3, sending the 3 to the other side at the bottom. So x is equal to 3. So we have solved it. So let's move on to the next one, which is we have x over 4 plus 2 is equal to 5. And so we want to get rid of the 2. And so x over 4 is equal to 5. Plus 2 moved to the other side is minus 2. And so x over 4 is equal to 3. And then we want to move the 4 to the top on the other side by multiplying both sides by 4 because x is divided by 4. And so x is equal to 3 times 4, and so x is equal to 12. So that's what we talked about last lesson. What I want us to do is before we go on to the homework for 8D, I talked about one example of what if we had fractions and variables on both sides. And so how would we do that? I want to practice a little bit more of that before we move on. So let's do some examples. Example over here of more complicated equation. So let's say we had 3x over 5. Let's just start with x over 3, and then we want to plus 2 plus 2 is equal to, let's say we had 2x plus 1. Now, we've come into a situation where there are x's on both sides, and there's fractions involved and also normal coefficients involved. So how do we actually do this? Now, I've already told 8D that there was 2 ways of doing it. And then for 8C, if you're in 8C, I want you to try your best to solve for x for this equation. So I want you to try your best before you watch my solutions. I want you to try first. Try to see if you can find out what x is, and then once you're done, then you can continue watching the video. So pause the video now. Now I assumed you have attempted to try this. Make sure you write it. You have written it down in your notes. So there are 2 ways. I'm going to split it into the left side and the right side. I'm going to show you one way on the left side, which is following the same way as isolating x on one side and the constants on the other side. And so in order for us to do this, I'm going to move this x term over here because it's a smaller x term, and then I'm going to move the 1 to the other side this way. And so we will have 2 minus 1 is equal to 2x minus x over 3. So that's how we do it. That's the first step. And then for this one, let me just write it slightly better, x over 3. And so 2x minus x over 3, I want to turn the 2x into a fraction where the denominator is also 3. And so 2 minus 1, let's clean that up, that's 1. And then 2x is equivalent to 6x over 3 minus x over 3. So that's the equivalent fraction of that. because 6x, once you simplify the 6 and the 3, it's actually 2x, okay? And so now 6x can subtract x, and so that becomes 1 is equal to 5x over 3. And then now we can use cross multiplication, so we can send the 3 to the top, and we can send the 5 to the bottom, and so x is equal to 3 over 5, and then we can actually put our x at the left side. X is equal to 3 over 5 this way. So that's one way of doing it. Now, there is another way of doing this. Now, the other way is what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 2 to the other side first. So for here, I'm going to have x over 3 is equal to 2x plus 1 minus 2. Now I'm going to combine the plus 1 and the minus 2 first. So let's do x over 3 is equal to 2x minus 1. So 1 minus 2 will be minus 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send the 3 at the bottom here to the top. Now what happens if I multiply both sides by 3 is it's going to be this whole term times 3 and this whole term times 3 as well. And then the 3 and the 3 will actually cancel out. So this will be x equals to bracket 3 bracket 2x minus 1. I'm multiplying 3 to the whole side, 2x minus 1. And so once the 3 distributes into the bracket, x is equal to 6x minus 3. And then now I want to continue isolating my x. And so I'm going to send the 3 over here, and I'm going to send this x over here back to this side. So we have 3 is equal to 6x minus x, and so that's going to be 5x. I'm going to just skip a step. I'm just going to directly say 5x because 6x minus x is 5x, which means that x is equal to 3 over 5. And so you can see in the end our answers are the same. There are more than one ways of doing this. So before we get on to the homework, I want you guys to try and do some example questions. So A, I'm going to make these up on the spot, and hopefully the numbers won't be too difficult. Let's say we have x over 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 minus x. Hopefully these numbers won't be too difficult. I'll find out later because I'm just making them up on the spot. So let's say we have 3 plus x over 4 is equal to 2x minus 3 minus 2x minus 5. I'm just making up these numbers. And then for the last one, let's do one more, C. Let's do this one. Let's combine it up. We have 2x over 3 plus 4 is equal to x over 2 plus 1. So I want us to try to do these 3 questions. Do them now, and then once you are done, then you can continue watching the video. So do these 3 questions now on your own notes paper. So I assume you have done it. So if you haven't, do them now. Don't just watch. It's better for you to try and then check your answers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you one way. There is more than one way of doing this. I know there are 2 ways, but I'll just show you the way in which I think is easier for depending on the case. So starting with A, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the minus x to the other side and then the 2 over to the other side. So because minus, I don't like to do with minuses. And so once I move them, that's x over 3 plus x is equal to 5 minus 2. And so what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to change the x into 3x over 3. So we have x over 3 plus 3x over 3 is equal to 5 minus 2, which is 3. And then we can combine them together. X plus 3x is 4x. Over 3 is equal to 3. And then we're going to do the cross multiplication of sending these to the opposite side. So x is equal to 3 times 3 over 4, which is going to be 9 over 4. And then let's change that into a mixed number. That's going to be 2 and 1 over 4. 2 and a quarter. Then for b, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send my 3 to the other side. I'm going to show you with the other method. So I have x over 4 is equal to 2x minus 5. And then when the 3 goes over, it's minus 3. So minus 5 and minus 3 can combine together to become minus 8. And then what I would do in this case is I'm going to send my 4 to the other side. So x is equal to 4 bracket of 2x minus 8. And then I'm going to expand the bracket. X is equal to 8x minus 32. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this single x to this side and then the minus 32 to the other side. So we have 32 is equal to 7x. 8x minus x, it will be 7x. So let me just show you that 8x minus x, just so that we are clear. So that is equal to 7x. I'm not skipping steps. And so x is now equal to 32 over 7. So unfortunately, the numbers do not end up being super nice. Let's turn that into a mixed number. 7 goes into 32 4 times. That's 28. So that's 4. And then there's 4 remainder, 4 over 7. So that's 4 and 4 over 7. Last question, C. This one is a little bit tricky. So I would use the first method for this one. I'm going to send x over 2 to this side. So what happens is we have 2x over 3 minus x over 2 is equal to 1 minus 4. I'm going to send the 4 to the other side. And so with this, I want to combine them so that we notice that the bottom are different, 3 and 2. So if you remember from fractions, in order for us to subtract, they have to be the same denominator. So I would change both of them. I need to multiply top and bottom by 2 to make the bottom 6. And I need to multiply top and bottom by 3 in order to make bottom 6 again. And so once we do that, we have 4x over 6 minus 3x over 6 is equal to 1 minus 4 will be negative 3. And so 4x minus 3x will be just x on its own. So we have x over 6 is equal to negative 3. And then once we send the 6 to the other side, x is equal to negative 18. So hopefully we understand what is going on. I know this is a little bit beyond what we actually need to know for grade 8, but I do want us to start off strong, understand what is going on before we actually, have a taster of the more difficult math, so that when we actually do it in grade 9, 10, 11, we are already familiar with it. So the homework for today is actually quite straightforward. Let's do some practices. So the homework, let me just type it out. Homework will be exercise 7.5 questions. Let's do 3 all the way to 33 odd questions. They are quite simple, so it shouldn't take us too long to do all of them. And then for the problem solving, let's do... Actually, you know what? Since we are quite good on time, I probably want to spend one more lesson on this. So I'm going to just spend one lesson on doing problem solving. We'll do problem solving on Tuesday, the day 2. So let's just do 3 to 33 odd questions. That is it for the homework. I will see you guys on our Zoom lesson. So that is it for today. I'll see you guys.